Somewhere in the mountains of Iwate Prefecture, 1,000 meters above sea level, 9 concrete apartment blocks are slowly dissolving into the fog. They are enormous 5, 6, 7 stories tall, and they appear without warning from the road. No signposts. No context. Just a mountain road, and then suddenly, ruins. Hundreds of empty windows staring down from the mist like hollow eye sockets. Trees pushing up through the floors. Ceilings collapsed inward. The wind moving through corridors that once held thousands of voices. This is the Matsuo Mine. For 2 decades in the mid-20th century, this mountain held one of the largest sulfur mining operations in all of Asia. A complete city, suspended above the clouds. Schools, hospitals, movie theaters, a baseball diamond. Then the world changed. And within months, it was gone. Welcome back to Lost Japan. Today we're climbing into the mountains of Iwate to find a place that most people, even most Japanese people, have never heard of. The Matsuo Mine, a sulfur mining city that appeared on a remote mountainside, housed thousands of families, and then was abandoned so completely that nature is now actively reclaiming it, floor by floor. The Hakumantai Plateau straddles the border of Iwate and Akita prefectures in the Tohoku region of northern Honshu. It's a volcanic landscape, hot springs, geothermal vents, and lakes colored an unnatural turquoise by dissolved minerals. Beautiful, remote, and for most of history, largely uninhabited. Sulfur had been found in these mountains since at least the early Meiji era. Volcanic geology and sulfur often go together. But serious extraction at Matsuo began in 1893, and for decades it remained a modest operation by the standards of what was to come. The transformation happened after World War II. Japan was rebuilding at extraordinary speed, and one of the key chemicals driving that reconstruction was sulfuric acid derived from sulfur, essential for fertilizers, batteries, textiles, and countless industrial processes. Demand surged. And Matsuo, sitting atop one of Japan's largest sulfur deposits, was positioned to meet it. The Japan Sulphur Corporation expanded operations aggressively through the 1950s. New shafts, new processing equipment, a railway line up the mountain, and most visibly, housing. Thousands of workers were needed. Workers had families. Families needed places to live. The company built upward. On the steep mountain slopes at roughly 1,000 meters altitude, where the winter is brutal and the fog rolls in for weeks at a time, they constructed a complex of large-scale concrete apartment buildings, clustered together on the mountainside like a small city dropped from the sky. At its peak, the Matsuo Mine complex housed around 4,000 people directly, with another 10,000 or more in the surrounding area. The operation was called, without apparent irony, the greatest sulfur mine in Asia. What was daily life like in a city built on a cloud? By the 1950s, the Matsuo mining complex had most of the amenities of a mid-sized Japanese town. Schools that went through to high school age. A hospital. A company store. A cinema showing the latest films from Tokyo. Public baths. Sports facilities, including a baseball field carved into the mountain. The winters were severe. At 1,000 meters, snow could accumulate to several meters deep, and the community would be cut off from the valleys below for extended periods. The fog, a constant presence in the warmer months, could reduce visibility to near zero. Children growing up there remember the isolation clearly. The mountain was their entire world. But it was a world with its own rhythms and its own warmth. Former residents, interviewed in later decades, often describe a close-knit community of unusual intensity. Everyone worked for the same company, lived in the same buildings, sent their children to the same schools. The shared hardship of the environment created bonds that some would later describe as unlike anything they experienced in ordinary Japanese cities. The work itself was dangerous. Sulfur mining is not as immediately deadly as coal mining. There are no methane explosions to fear, but the chemicals involved are corrosive and toxic. Hydrogen sulfide gas, a byproduct of the volcanic geology, could accumulate in low-lying areas of the mine. Workers were trained to recognize its rotten egg smell as a warning. Those who ignored the warning didn't get second chances. The processed sulfur went down the mountain by rail, then south to industrial facilities across Japan. Fertilizer plants, battery factories. The rebuilding of a nation, mediated through a mountain. For nearly 2 decades, this system worked. Output grew. The company expanded. The mountain city seemed permanent. Then, in the early 1960s, the first faint signals of trouble appeared. The threat to Matsuo came not from inside the mine, but from chemistry labs thousands of kilometers away. In the 1950s and 1960s, petroleum refining technology was advancing rapidly. Oil refineries, as a byproduct of processing crude oil, were beginning to produce sulfur in enormous quantities. This synthetic sulfur, or byproduct sulfur, as the industry called it, was chemically identical to mined sulfur, and it was available cheaply as a byproduct of a process that was already profitable. As global oil refining capacity expanded through the 1960s, the price of sulfur began to fall. Then fall more. Then collapse. Matsuo's economics had always depended on the assumption that mined sulfur would maintain its value. It did not. By the mid-1960s, the mine was struggling to remain profitable against the flood of cheap byproduct sulfur from refineries in Japan and abroad. The company tried to adapt. Costs were cut. Workers were let go. But the mathematics were unforgiving. In 1969, after 76 years of operation, the Matsuo mine announced it would close. What followed was remarkably swift. Mining operations ceased. Workers were given relocation assistance and assigned to the company's other facilities or simply let go. Families packed their belongings. The railway made its last runs. And within a matter of months, not years, the mountain complex that had housed thousands of people was empty. The speed of the abandonment is part of what makes Matsuo so striking as a ruin. There was no gradual decline. No slow hollowing out. The buildings were simply vacated, and the mountain took over immediately. Furniture was left behind. Kitchen items. Personal effects. Calendars still on the walls showing 1969. As if someone had pressed pause. 55 years later, the building shells remain. The interiors have been gutted by time, weather, and scavengers, but the concrete frames, engineered to withstand heavy mountain snowpack, have proven stubborn. The ruins are not collapsing so much as slowly dissolving, one season at a time. Today, the Matsuo mine ruins are one of Japan's most famous and most photographed abandoned sites. The approach is dramatic. You drive a mountain road through forest, emerge into open alpine terrain, and then the ruins simply appear, massive concrete blocks emerging from the mist, incongruous and unsettling against the volcanic landscape. Entry to the buildings is prohibited. They are structurally unstable and legally off-limits. But the exterior can be viewed from the road, and photographers and urban explorers have documented the interiors extensively. The images circulate widely online: collapsed ceilings, flooded basements, rooms full of accumulated debris, staircases leading to floors that no longer exist. In the right conditions, a foggy morning in summer or a heavy snowfall in winter, the effect is genuinely otherworldly. The ruins disappear into the mist and re-emerge as shadows. It's not hard to understand why this place has become something of a pilgrimage site for photographers and artists. But Matsuo's story has an ongoing chapter that the photographs don't show. The mine still produces acid drainage water that percolates through the old workings, picks up sulfuric compounds, and emerges as a highly acidic liquid that would poison any watercourse it entered. To prevent this, a water treatment facility operates continuously, neutralizing the drainage before releasing it. It has been running since 1972. It will need to run indefinitely. The mountain city is gone. The problem it left behind is not. The Matsuo Mine is a particular kind of ghost story. Not haunted by violence or tragedy in the conventional sense. Haunted by suddenness. By the speed with which a community that took decades to build could be dismantled in months. By the strangeness of an entire city simply stopping. And by the quiet ongoing cost. That treatment facility, running every day, treating water that would otherwise be toxic, is a reminder that the consequences of industrial activity don't end when the industry does. The mountain is patient. It will be processing the legacy of the mine long after the concrete has finally crumbled. Japan has dozens of places like Matsuo mountain communities, island cities, river towns that existed in service of a single industry and vanished when the industry did. That's exactly the kind of story we're here to tell. Thanks for watching Lost Japan. I'll see you next time.